Welcome to the deep dive. We take a stack of sources, like the one we've got today, and basically pull out the key insights for you.
Yep, sort of cut through the noise.
Exactly. Think of it as your quick route to getting up to speed, maybe even, learning something surprising.
And today we are diving into Takemusu Aiki Katatedori. It's a technical manual focusing entirely on single-hand grab techniques in Aikido. Really interesting stuff.
It really looks like it. Yeah, we've got bits from the manual, some background info too. And what jumped out at me straight away is this isn't just any Aikido book, right? It's very specifically about Morihiro Saito sensei's teachings.
hmm
So I guess our mission today is to figure out why this manual, focusing on katatedori, that single hand grab, why it's considered so important, in Aikido generally and for Saito sensei's work specifically.
Okay, let's dig in.
Sounds good. Well, to really get this manual, you kind of need the backstory. Takemusu Aiki Katatedori isn't a standalone thing. It's actually one part of a whole series of technical guides Saito sensei put together.
He worked with Aiki News on them, which, as some folks might know, later became Aikido Journal. This particular one, Katatedori, came out in 1979.
1979. And it wasn't just text, I gather. The sources really emphasize the visual side, like hundreds of black and white photos showing 22 basic techniques.
Oh, absolutely. Hugely visual, which must have been, a massive help for students trying to really see the movements.
Yeah, I bet.
And what's also quite interesting is how they made it accessible. It was deliberately produced in both English and Japanese,
Oh.
which really reflects that Aikido was becoming much more international around then.
Okay, so we've got this very visual bilingual guide from 79 focusing tightly on katatedori. But what was Saito sensei actually trying to do with it? What was his sort of teaching philosophy that this book represents?
Yeah, good question. I think a key thing here is Saito Sensei's very deliberate, structured approach. That was kind of his trademark.
Okay.
This manual, it systematically builds things up. You start from the core movements, right? Then it shows you the variation. They call those enkawaza.
Henkawaza.
Okay.
And then the practical applications, which are oyawaza. So think of Henkawaza as like adapting the basic move for different situations.
Right.
And oyawaza as maybe more advanced ways to use those same principles.
That makes a lot of sense. Build the foundation first, then explore outwards. And the photos are key to that structure, aren't they?
Totally. Yeah, the photos were shot between 1978 and 79, and the PEX makes a really interesting point about them.
Oh, yeah.
Saito sensei apparently made a specific effort to capture the flow of the movement. So it wasn't just about striking a pose,
Ah, right. More dynamic.
Exactly. The idea was to highlight the really critical moments within the technique as it's happening so readers could, visualize it better, see it in action.
Okay, now here's where I thought it got really interesting, thinking about the timing. This manual comes out in 79.
Mm-hmm.
And our sources mentioned that around this time, there was a big increase in foreign students traveling to the Iwama dojo, where Saito sensei taught. Yes, that's a really crucial piece of context. If you look at the big picture, this manual probably wasn't just like a passion project.
Right.
It seems very likely it was at least partly a response to all this growing international interest in his specific way of teaching Aikido.
Okay.
And his reputation as this super dedicated teacher of, traditional Aikido was spreading fast. And that led to him getting invited to teach all over the place.
So the travel started then, too.
Yeah, the sources mentioned the U.S., Europe, Scandinavia, Australia. Those were major places he started going to teach.
Wow. So you could almost see this manual as like an extension of his dojo then. A way to reach students who couldn't physically be there in Iwama.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like he was sharing the core Iwama curriculum with the world, starting with Katatedori.
Cool.
And it's so important to remember Saito sensei's unique position, right? He wasn't just any Aikido teacher.
No, he was a direct student of the founder.
Exactly. A direct and very long-term student of Morihei Ueshiba himself. He spent decades training under O-Sensei.
Wow. Decades.
Yeah. And he felt this deep sense of responsibility because of that, to preserve and pass on the complete system he learned.
The complete system. So that includes more than just the empty hand stuff.
Oh, definitely. It included taijutsu, that's the empty hand techniques,
Okay.
but also the ken, the sword work, and the staff techniques. He saw it all as one integrated system.
And the manual makes that connection clear, does it? It's not just about hand grabs in isolation.
Absolutely. The source material points out that even though this specific book is about katatedori, these techniques are shown as part of that bigger picture.
Okay.
They fit within this larger curriculum that includes the weapons. It really underlines Saito sensei's view that you need to train in all of it to really understand Aikido properly.
That really does highlight his dedication to the founder's way of doing things. He wasn't just teaching, he was actively, like, safeguarding it.
Yes, safeguarding and faithfully transmitting what he'd received directly. The source even mentions his dual role. He was a student, but also the guardian of the Eiki shrine in Iwama.
Right, I saw that. That says a lot about his commitment, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
A profound sense of duty, I think.
Okay, so let's zoom back in on the main topic of this manual. Katatedori. Just for anyone listening who might not know the term, can you break down what katatedori actually means?
Sure thing. Katatedori is the Japanese term, and it literally translates to single hand grab.
Simple enough.
Yeah. So this entire book is focused on exploring all the different Aikido techniques you can use when someone grabs just one of your hands or wrists. It's a very, very common starting point in Aikido practice.
Right, makes sense. And we even saw the cover in the sources. It's got the Japanese calligraphy pretty prominent for Takemusu Aiki up top. And then right below it, clearly written Katatedori. And it has Morihiro Saito sensei's name and his rank at the time, 8th Dan.
Yeah, 8th Dan.
Yeah.
That image itself, the cover, it really tells you what you're getting, doesn't it?
It does.
Straight away, you know who the teacher is, exactly what the topic is, and, well, that it represents a very high level of mastery.
Now, one of the coolest things in the source material, I thought, was that flow chart, that diagram showing how all the Katatedori techniques branch out. Can you maybe walk us through that? What does it tell us about his systematic way of thinking?
Oh, yeah, that flow chart is brilliant. It's basically a visual map of how Saito Sensei organized and connected all these different Katatedori techniques.
Okay.
It starts from one central point that's the initial grab, the Katatedori, and then it just branches out, showing how different techniques emerge from that same starting point.
Yeah.
Depends on things like, how you position your body, how you move in response to that grab.
Gotcha. So it's like a decision tree.
Yeah.
Almost, based on your initial response.
Pretty much, yeah. Let's look at one of the big branches. There's one labeled Omoti Irimi. Now, Omoti usually means like a forward or direct entry.
Okay.
And irimi also implies entering, moving towards your partner. So this branch leads to a bunch of core Aikido techniques people might recognize, like the ikkyo, dainikyo, daisankyo, daihonkyo, also shihonage and kotegaeshi.
Right, the classics.
Exactly. And the chart even points out variations, like urawasa, that usually involves more of a turning your rear movement, and kino nagar, which is about doing it more fluidly, continuously.
It's amazing how many options spring from that one grab, just based on whether you enter forwards or, what's the other main branch? Or tenken.
Exactly, Ura Tenken. So this branch covers techniques where you typically start with a turning movement, or maybe a step back. Tenken means turning or pivoting.
Okay.
And what's interesting is you see a lot of the same technique names here again: ikkyo, nikkyo, sankyo, yonkyo, shihonage, kotegaeshi.
Oh, right.
But the way you do them, the whole feeling is pretty different because you started with that tenken, that turning motion.
So potentially the same end technique, but a totally different path to get there, depending on that first move.
Precisely. And the chart keeps going. It also includes techniques done from seated positions, that's suwari waza,
Right.
and half-standing positions, hanmi handachi waza. And under those, you see things like iriminage, with notes like chu and grei for middle and lower level throws, and also uchi mawari and soto mawari, which are different kinds of turning entries. It really shows how you can deal with that basic katatedori grab from pretty much any position.
Yeah, it really drives home how adaptable the core ideas are. Standing, sitting, somewhere in between. There's an answer rooted in that same grab.
And it branches out even further. The diagram covers a whole range of other techniques coming from Katatedori. Things like kokyunage breath throws at different levels.
Okay.
Hijiosia waza, which are elbow controls. Sumiotoshi, that's a corner drop technique. And even some kateme waza, which are more like joint locking or pinning techniques. It's surprisingly comprehensive for just one type of grab.
It really is. Looking down at the bottom of that chart, I noticed a little note. Ukemi. Jason Yim. That's the person who's taking the fall, right? The one receiving the technique in the photos in the book.
That's right. Jason Yim. It's a nice detail acknowledging the person receiving the technique. Their role is crucial, for both demonstrating and learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And just under that, it says, order from Aiki News. Kind of a little historical marker there.
Yeah, it reminds you where it came from, how people originally got their hands on it back in '79.
So if we try and pull this all together, this deep dive into Takemusu Aiki Katatedori, It really shows it's way more than just a list of moves, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely.
It's this really carefully structured, very visual guide to understanding these foundational katatedori techniques in Aikido, and it's all through the specific lens of Morihiro Saito sensei's teaching, which came straight from the founder, Morihei Ueshiba.
Exactly. It really highlights Saito Sensei's vital role in, like you said, preserving and passing down that traditional Aikido curriculum.
Yeah.
And it emphasizes how everything is connected. The empty hand stuff, the weapons work, and how it can all start from something as seemingly simple as someone grabbing your wrist.
It really makes you stop and think about the depth you can find in something that looks basic on the surface. One grab leading to this huge interconnected web of techniques, all laid out so clearly in this one manual.
And, that brings up maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on.
Oh, yeah.
Well, think about this structured way of looking at a fundamental technique, like katatedori, with all its variations and applications. How might that reflect the depth and interconnectedness you find not just in Aikido, but maybe in other things you're interested in, other fields, other skills? What other simple-looking foundations might actually hold these incredible layers of complexity, just sort of waiting to be unpacked and explored?